Okay, so the next step is installing the carburetors on the engine. Now, before we do that, these things are filthy and need thorough cleaning inside and out. Now, I did buy new jets for these carburetors because we have to rejet this engine because it's running a different muffler, different intake, as well as running in hotter weather, so we have to rejet it to run properly and not burn up the engine. For some reason, I waited till yesterday to buy the new jets, so they're gonna get here in a couple days, maybe like 7 to 10 days. So in the meantime, I'm just going to install these, hook up everything on these, and try to get all the wiring and all the stuff finished. And then once the new jets get here, then we can install the different jets that need to be in here, and then we'll do further tuning later on. But for now, let's just install these and hook them up properly. And before we do that, we need to thoroughly clean these. So I had to move this mount down. Originally it was right here, now it's right here. So this makes it to where the gas pedal has more movement back and forth and makes it to where the throttle isn't as touchy. Now I'm using clear tubing, so therefore I can make sure that oil is getting to the pump. So I installed this little plate right here, so therefore we can mount the choke to right here and then proceeded to break it. So broke this little plastic piece, this popped right off, so I had to order a new one of these, and it's gonna get here in a couple days. Okay, so we get the carburetors installed, got the choke lines installed, throttle cable, got the coolant lines installed, also oil lines, gas lines, got most of this stuff installed for now. Also, I did hook up the wiring harness just to make sure it works, it's getting a spark, and it is. It now is getting a spark. There's some weird like safety switches right here, right next to the kill switch on this thing. These, you just have to push one of them or both of them down, and then it does get a spark. So we are going to bypass those. We don't need it. I will be replacing this up-down kill switch with a toggle kill switch, and I'll put that toggle switch easily accessible from the driver's position. So therefore, worst case, you can easily shut this engine off. So now, what I should do is I should go through this wiring harness and clip off all the wires we're not using, because we're not using everything on this wiring harness. And I should also shorten this. We don't need it to be this long, but am I going to do that? No, I don't really feel like doing that right now. So what I'm going to do is just for now, I'm just going to bunch all this stuff up and zip tie it to the frame somewhere right here, and then maybe later on, maybe once we paint this frame, I will go through this and shorten this and also clip off all the wires we're not using, just to make it a lot neater of a wiring bundle. So, but for now, I'm not going to do that. And for now, I'm just going to stuff it all right here just so we can get this thing running for now. Now I am going to put some oil, a little bit of oil, in the gas, just to make sure that, you know, because I'm not 100% sure that oil pump works. So just in case, putting a little bit in the gas tank. I just got to shake it up. Okay, so it is now time to try and get this engine running. We got gas in the gas tank, oil in the oil tank. I verified that there is gas in the carburetors. Spark plugs are back in. That's one thing I didn't buy, is new spark plugs. But I know this engine was running with these, so they are decent spark plugs. I'll buy new ones soon. But let's see if we can get this thing to run. Ignition is on. Key is on. Here goes nothing. It's in neutral. It's in neutral. Woo! Turn it off. Because I have this catch road. I have two screws in there. So I'm sure. Here's another. I'll make sure the opposite works. So as soon as the flash on, reverse, and flip back on. Yeah, it's a workout pulling this thing. I wish it was electric start, but Now, yeah, the spark plugs are soaked. It is getting a spark, but it's not a very strong spark, I'll admit. So, alright, so I gave it a minute, let it, because I think I flooded it. Because I took the spark plugs out and they were soaked in gas. So I gave it a minute to evaporate. I'm putting the choke back on. And we'll see if this thing will fire up. Come on! Remember, this thing was a nightmare to start. When I was on the snowmobile. Oh, it worked! It ran! That was like 20 minutes of pulling this thing. Oh, wow. It keeps doing that. Woo! Okay, I gotta let it. I gotta let it air out. Alright, and it finally runs. It took a little while of pulling the pull cord, but I eventually got it to fire up. I flooded it twice, so I had to let it. I pulled the spark plugs out, let it sit for a little bit, and let it evaporate. But it finally fired up, and it works. It runs. It smokes, which means I think the oil pump is working. I'm not really sure how you test if the oil pump is working or not, but it's smoking, so that's a good sign. So I almost forgot to hook up the brakes. So we need to do that next, and then we can test this thing further. See if I can get it into gear. Magic reverse. I was expecting a little more takeoff speed. Maybe it needs to warm up, but that wasn't that impressive, I'll admit. Maybe it needs to just wind out a little so the clutch can do its thing. Yeah, it's getting a little dark. I'll further test it tomorrow. Okay, so it was getting a little dark last night, so I wasn't able to really test that much, but I'll admit it was a little anticlimactic with the first test. It really didn't work. I probably didn't let this engine warm up for as long as I should have. It was only running for like a minute and a half before I tested it. But now remember, we still need to tune this engine. The jets that I bought for these carburetors, I looked at shipping today and it still says that they are 5 days out, so the shipping's taking forever. So we're gonna have to tune this thing next video, but I want to at least do something in this video to show this thing driving. We can't ride that much in my yard. Pretty much all we can do is just do a couple burnouts in front of the shed, but I want to at least do that to kind of test, will this thing just do wheel spins, or will these tires have enough traction to do a wheel? Obviously on the road, yeah, these tires are going to have traction, and if it can do a wheelie, it will on the road, but I want to see if it can on the dirt. Also, I just want to do some wheel spins and burnouts on this thing, just to kind of see what this thing can do. So I'm going to pull this thing back outside, I'm going to fire it up, let it warm up this time, and then do a couple more tests back and forth to see what this thing can do. Let's see if it'll fire up without choke. Bit of a disappointment, I'll admit. Yeah, we definitely have to tune this thing. It is not running that well. Yeah, as soon as I get on the throttle, it just bogs down. So, did it even spin the wheels a little bit? I was expecting a little bit more power, but maybe it's just because this thing's not running that well. you can definitely hear it bogs down as soon as I try to get on the throttle. So yeah, I think we need to tune the engine. I think that's next. Well, that was a little disappointing, I'll admit. Now, I know that this engine needs tuning. You can clearly hear when I rev this thing, it just bogs down like crazy, and it's not at full power, which I knew this thing wasn't going to run that well. It's just I was hoping to have it run well enough to where I could at least do something in this video, so I could do some wheel spins, do some burnouts, and maybe if these tires had enough traction, see if this thing could do wheelies. But unfortunately, this thing's just not tuned correctly. So, like I said, the jets that I ordered for these carburetors, they're gonna take another 5 days to get here, so we can't do that in this video. That's gonna have to be for next video of this project. But this wasn't a terrible test. It worked pretty decent. The 2-speed transmission worked great. It was easy to shift in and out of gears when the engine wasn't revving that high. When the engine was a little above 3,000 RPM, that was when it was grinding into gear. But when it was idling, it shifted into gear just fine, shifted out of gear just fine. The brakes worked, throttle worked, steering worked, the radiator worked. It's pretty hot right now, so it's working. And it smokes like a chimney, so I think the oil pump is working. Also, like I said, I did put oil in the gas tank just to make sure that this thing wasn't running without oil. I'm wondering if it's that. Could it be because it's running too rich with oil? Is that a thing with two-stroke? I don't know that much. Yeah, you can clearly tell. I don't know much about snowmobile engines. This is the first snowmobile engine I've ever dealt with. I've never ridden a snowmobile. I live in the South. So, never have dealt with snowmobiles in my life. So, next video of this project will be, once the jets get here, we'll be tuning this thing and we will take it somewhere else to do a real true test to see what this thing can do. I'm not really sure where that's going to be. Not really sure where we could take this thing. That is a... I guess Lee's boss's property is pretty good, but it's really bumpy. But it's maybe our only option to be able to take it to there. So that's going to be for next video of this project. But for now, I gotta end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.